The National Museum of Military Vehicles has the mission of educating next generations on the history of American freedom. That history in World War II made clear how much American military capability and therefore American freedom depends on strong American manufacturing. Let's take a look at lessons learned the hard way in World War II. When Germany invaded Poland September 1st, 1939, the United States had a very weak military. We'd gone through the Great Depression. Half of our economy evaporated during that depression. The half that was left was not prioritized to support a standing military or to upgrade our weapon systems. As a result, our army was the same size as Portugal's. We didn't have any medium battle tanks. We had a handful of M2 light tanks that for all practical purposes were already obsolete. We paid a price for this weakness on the battlefield. In the early phases of World War II, we were beaten both by Imperial Japan and by Nazi Germany. For example, in the Battle of the Atlantic, in the first year of that battle, the German submarines were sinking American cargo ships faster than we can manufacture them. In the First Battle of the Philippines against the Japanese, beginning December 1941, we ended up surrendering an entire American and Philippine army, April 9, 1942, under the command of General King. And in early fighting against Rommel's Afrika Korps in North Africa in February of 1943, we took a beating, suffering 7,000 casualties, the loss of 183 tanks, lots of other damage. We completely fell apart and retreated back toward Morocco. Fast forward to April 1945. Hitler committed suicide April 30th of 1945. 1 week later, Germany unconditionally surrendered. 3 months later, Japan unconditionally surrendered. How does that make sense? What happened in that 2 years to turn around American fortunes on the battlefield? We leveraged American manufacturing. Right on the heels of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, less than 30 days later, President Roosevelt went on the radio to do a national address to the American people, and he didn't tell us to practice our marksmanship. He didn't tell us to practice military drills. He told us to ramp up our manufacturing. That was going to be the key to victory. He told us we needed a crushing superiority of equipment in every theater of war, and we delivered it. We mobilized our entire industrial base in unprecedented time to convert from manufacturing civilian goods to instead manufacture military material. It took 2 years for us to go through that process. In February of 1943, in our fighting against Rommel's Afrika Korps, we did not yet have the benefit of the output of our manufacturing base, but by early 1944 we did. And once we got the benefit of this crushing superiority of equipment reaching the battlefield, both against the Germans and against the Japanese, the war was over really fast. To give you an idea of what we did, in the 12 months leading up to the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, we only manufactured 12,000 aircraft in the entire United States, both military and civilian. In the next 3 years, we manufactured 300,000 aircraft of all types. Ford Motor Company established the Willow Run manufacturing facility with the longest assembly line in the world, stretching a full mile. After Ford ramped up its Willow Run manufacturing facility, manufacturing B-24 Liberator bombers, Ford got to the point where 1 airplane an hour was coming off the manufacturing lines. In that same period of time, we manufactured 124,000 ships. In that same period of time, we manufactured approximately 89,000 tanks. We manufactured millions of 2.5-ton trucks, other soft-skin vehicles, all critical to delivering needed supplies on time in adequate quantities on the battlefield. Let's talk about aircraft carriers. When the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, we had 4 aircraft carriers in our Pacific fleet. The Japanese had something in the area of 20 aircraft carriers. We sunk 4 Japanese aircraft carriers in June 1942 at the Battle of Midway. The Japanese sank 1 of ours. Now we've got 3 versus 16. The difference is the Japanese couldn't manufacture another new aircraft carrier the remainder of the war, while we manufactured more than 100, including both fleet carriers and escort carriers. We did the same thing with small arms. We did the same thing with munitions. We did the same thing with uniforms, with transportation, with living quarters, to go from having a military on September 1st, 1939 that held fewer than 400,000 Americans in uniform to putting 16 million Americans in uniform during World War II, with a peak of 12.2 million Americans at any one time. Not only did we manufacture everything we needed for ourselves, but we could manufacture a lot more than that. We supplied 36 allies under our Lend-Lease program. We're the ones that kept the United Kingdom in the fight after they evacuated the beaches of Dunkirk. We're the ones that kept the Soviet Union in the fight after it was forced to retreat eastward during the German invasion. We shipped entire new factories to the Soviet Union for them to reestablish manufacturing capability east of the mountains. It just made all the difference. The connection between manufacturing and military capability isn't a matter of rocket science. It's really a matter of just common sense. Both sides in any military conflict will come into the war with a stockpile of supplies. The reality is, once war breaks out, both sides are going to consume their military supplies at a really high rate, whether we're talking 155 millimeter artillery shells or any other aspect of military capability. We see this playing out today in Ukraine. The focus of the Russians, the focus of the Ukrainians, isn't getting more boots on the ground. The focus is on replenishing military material that's being consumed on the battlefield. In particular, a lot of attention is being paid to the resupply, the manufacturing of 155 millimeter artillery shells. It's as true today as it was in the 1940s that if one side dominates in manufacturing and the other side has inadequate manufacturing to replenish its losses, the side with manufacturing is going to win. The only difference between today and the 1940s is the United States doesn't dominate in manufacturing anymore. Even worse, it's an adversary, China, who does dominate in manufacturing, which brings us to the question: if war breaks out between the United States and our allies and China, whether it's over Taiwan, whether it's over China continuing to expand its claim to territorial waters and to natural resources that can be drilled from the ocean floor by creating illegal artificial islands and putting military force on those illegal islands, no matter what the cause might be, to lead to war between the United States and the democracies and China, what would stop China from doing to us what we did to Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan, given China's dominant global manufacturing and given how much American manufacturing has been hollowed out through outsourcing over the last multiple decades? It used to be, when you ask our military leadership that question, the comment would be, well, it's not just a matter of quantity, it's also a matter of capability. Our weapon systems are more capable. That technology advantage is gone. It used to be, over the last decades, the public conversation here in the United States about outsourcing American manufacturing would focus on impact on American jobs. The answer to that was, yeah, short term, that's going to be painful. We'll have to retrain our workforce. It'll be particularly tough for the older people, but long term, this is really better for American quality of life to have goods manufactured at a lower cost in countries, particularly China. There's all this encouragement. This is the right thing for us to do. You don't hear discussion as much anymore about impact on American jobs. We have such a low unemployment rate. You do hear discussion about impact on the American economy, how much American wealth is being transferred to China. What you don't hear is, what about the impact on American freedom? That's what's really at stake here. That this connection between manufacturing and military capability, what position have we put ourselves in? What are the unintended consequences to the American people from outsourcing so much American manufacturing to China? Now, I'm not a military expert, so take what I'm going to say next with a grain of salt. But my guess is, if we end up at war with China, they'll quit shipping us the raw materials, the tooling, the components that we need to to make weapons to kill them with. I might be wrong, but that's my guess. And if that's what happens, American freedom is at risk. We're asleep at the switch. Americans are not learning about the connection between manufacturing and military capability in schools. Our media isn't covering it. Most of our political leadership doesn't get it. My point is not to be partisan. My point is only to be patriotic. My point is to raise awareness. We've got to do something differently with respect to American manufacturing. We need to be more independent. We absolutely have to be far less dependent on China. And think about all of the vendors we rely on outside the United States who themselves are dependent on China. We are setting ourselves up to lose on the battlefield in the event of war with China. We've got to wake up.